I adored my wife. Not in the shallow way people say it when they're newly in love, but in the kind of way that shapes your whole life around another person's presence. Every laugh, every morning coffee, every quiet evening, she was my peace. And yet, peace has a way of breaking without noise. That day, the sun was falling behind the hills, pouring gold across the highway. The car was filled with soft music, the kind that usually made her hum under her breath. But she wasn't humming that day. She was quiet. Her eyes were fixed outside the window, and I could feel her mind was somewhere I couldn't follow. Then her phone lit up. Just a simple buzz, a message. She looked down, smiled faintly, the kind of smile that once belonged to me. I didn't know it then, but that was the exact second my world began to crack. It wasn't a scream, or an argument, or some dramatic confession. It was silence, a silence so sharp it sliced right through the illusion I'd built around us. People think heartbreak is loud. It's not. It's quiet, subtle, and it happens when you realize the person beside you is slowly becoming a stranger, while you're still in love with who they used to be. That's the moment my story began. And that's the moment she, without even knowing it, shattered everything I believed about love. Before I go deeper into this story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever loved someone so much that you ignored the quiet signs, the long silences, the distant smiles, the feeling that something precious was slipping away even while you held their hand? If you have, then this story is for you. Because what happened to me wasn't sudden. It was slow, invisible, and gentle, the kind of heartbreak that sneaks into your life when you're too busy believing everything is fine. And maybe you'll see a little piece of yourself in it too. I'm not here to preach about love or loss. I just want to tell you what it feels like when love changes shape, when the person who once made your world glow suddenly feels like a memory sitting right beside you. So, before we go any further, if you've ever felt love so deep it scared you, or heartbreak so silent it broke you, hit that like button, drop a broken heart in the comments, and subscribe for more real stories like this. And as you listen, I want you to imagine you're sitting in that car with me, the air heavy with unspoken words, the sun fading, the world outside moving while your heart stands still. This isn't just my story. It's the story of anyone who ever believed that love could survive anything, until life proved otherwise. Now, let's go back to where it all began. My name is Ethan Miller, and for the longest time, I thought I had life figured out. I'm 35, an architect based in Seattle, Washington, a city of rain, coffee, and quiet streets that somehow always felt like home. I've always been the calm one, the type of man who finds comfort in routine, black coffee at 7, work by 8, dinner with my wife by 7:30. And her name was Lena. Lena Parker, the woman who could walk into a room and make everyone forget what they were talking about. She was 2 years younger than me, a creative director for an ad agency, bold, brilliant, with a laugh that could make even the rain sound like music. When I met her, she was everything I wasn't, spontaneous, fearless, always chasing sunsets and new beginnings. She said I made her feel grounded, and I told her she made me feel alive. Together, we were a balance that made sense. Our friends called us the perfect match. We had a cozy home near Green Lake, with tall windows that let the morning light spill in, and a kitchen where she loved to dance barefoot while making pancakes on Sundays. We weren't rich, but we had what mattered: love, laughter, and the feeling that we'd built something real. Looking back now, I realize how much I adored that version of us. The before-love context, the time when our world was simple, before trust became a fragile thing, before silence turned into distance. If you saw us then, you'd think nothing could break us. And maybe that's what made what happened later so devastating, because the more perfect something looks from the outside, the more quietly it can fall apart from within. It was a Friday evening in Portland, about 7 years ago. I was in town for a design conference, one of those formal events where everyone pretends to enjoy lukewarm wine and talk about architecture trends. I remember stepping outside for air, away from the crowd, standing under the soft drizzle that painted the city lights on the pavement. That's when I saw her, Lena. She was standing under a small awning across the street, holding a sketchbook and arguing with her phone's GPS. Her hair was slightly damp from the rain, strands sticking to her face, but she didn't seem to care. She looked alive. I don't know what made me walk over. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe something deeper, that quiet pull you can't explain. Lost? I asked, trying not to sound awkward. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Not lost. Just directionally confused." That was the first time I heard her laugh, short, bright, and completely unguarded. I offered to help, and as we figured out where she was headed, her notebook slipped from her hand. I bent down to pick it up, and froze. Inside were sketches, buildings, faces, emotions. It was raw, beautiful, chaotic. "You draw feelings," I said before I could stop myself. She tilted her head, amused. "And you look like someone who measures them." That's how it started, an architect and a dreamer, both trying to design something lasting in a world where nothing really stays. We walked that night, rain falling softly as we shared stories. About work, cities we loved, and how neither of us really fit into the noise of crowded places. When she said goodbye, she turned back once and said, "Maybe we'll meet again when it's not raining." We did. A month later in Seattle, she showed up at my firm. Her agency was collaborating with us on a project. When our eyes met, we both laughed, not because it was funny, but because it felt like the universe had decided it wasn't done with us yet. That's how Lena entered my world, not with fireworks, but with rain, a smile, and a sketchbook that somehow drew the outline of my future. After that second meeting, it was as if the universe pressed play on something we didn't even know had begun. Lena and I started spending long hours together, working on the same project, an urban renewal concept for a forgotten corner of Seattle. We'd meet early, before everyone else, sipping coffee while the city was still half asleep. She'd fill the air with ideas, wild, colorful, impossible, and I'd be the one trying to turn them into something that could stand on its own. We were opposites in the most natural way. I was logic, she was chaos. And somehow, that balance made everything make sense. Our friendship grew quietly, like roots beneath the ground. I found myself memorizing the way she tilted her head when she was thinking, or how she hummed softly when focused. She noticed the way I avoided eye contact when nervous and teased me for it. One evening, we stayed late finishing a presentation. The city lights shimmered outside the glass walls of the office. She stretched, looked at me, and said, "You know, you take life too seriously." I smiled. "Someone has to keep us from falling apart." She grinned, walking closer. "Maybe falling apart isn't always bad." That was the moment everything shifted. From that night on, we weren't just co-workers. We were something unspoken, fragile, beautiful. We went for midnight drives, shared takeout under the stars, and talked about everything, our fears, our pasts, our dreams. She once told me, if love ever finds me, I want it to feel calm, not chaotic. I didn't tell her, but I knew she'd already found it. Months passed, and soon, love wasn't something we talked about. It was something that lived in our routines, the way she texted me good morning before the sun rose, or how she always waited for me at the lobby after work. The first time she said "I love you" wasn't dramatic. It was during breakfast, over burnt toast. She looked at me and said it like it was the most obvious truth in the world. I still remember the way her voice softened on the last word. And I remember thinking, if I could freeze one moment forever, it would be that one. A year later, I asked her to marry me at the same lake where we used to walk every Sunday. She cried, I laughed, and somewhere between those tears and laughter, we made a promise. No secrets. No lies. Just us, always honest, always real. For years, we kept that promise. Or at least, I thought we did. It started small, the kind of small you can't measure until it grows too big to ignore. At first, it was just silence. Not the comfortable kind we used to share, but a heavy kind, the one that sits between two people like a wall. Lena started coming home late. Her agency had picked up new clients, demanding campaigns, late meetings. I tried to understand. I told myself, she's just busy. She's tired. But every night she'd slip into bed quietly, and I'd pretend to be asleep so I wouldn't have to ask what kept her out so long. I began noticing things I never paid attention to before. Her perfume smelled different, softer. Her phone, always face down. Her laughter, less frequent. There was one night I came home early, hoping to surprise her. I found her sitting on the couch, staring at her phone, tears in her eyes. When she saw me, she quickly wiped them away and forced a smile. "Rough day?" I asked gently. "Just work," she said, too quickly. That's when I started feeling the distance. Not physical, emotional. Like something invisible had wrapped around us, slowly pulling us apart. I didn't want to believe it. Love makes you blind that way. You tell yourself stories to fill the silence. She's tired, it's stress, it'll pass. But one night, while we were having dinner, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, smiled faintly, and turned it over. I don't know why, but my chest tightened. "Who's that?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She hesitated, just for a moment, and said, "A friend from work." That pause. That one heartbeat of hesitation. It changed everything. I nodded, but my mind was already spinning. Who was this friend? Why hide a simple text? Over the next few weeks, I noticed her laughter returning, but not with me. She seemed lighter, distracted, like her thoughts were somewhere else entirely. I tried to confront her once. "Lena, are you okay? You've been distant lately." She sighed, tired. "Ethan, not everything's about us. Can't I just have space?" That word, space, echoed in my head for days. We used to fill space with love, with understanding. Now it was something she needed from me. Our home didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like two ghosts living parallel lives, close enough to touch, but too far to reach. And still, I loved her. Desperately. So I held on, hoping whatever storm was coming would pass. But storms don't always pass. Sometimes, they reveal what's been breaking all along. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. We were driving back from a weekend trip to Olympic National Park. The forest behind us, the city ahead. The sky was warm, golden, the kind of day that made the world feel gentle. But inside the car, there was no warmth. Just quiet. Lena had been distant the whole trip, polite, but not present. I tried, I really did. I cracked jokes, played her favorite songs, even stopped at her favorite roadside diner. But nothing reached her. Now, as we drove, she sat with her phone in her lap, staring at the window, lost somewhere I couldn't follow. Then it happened. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled, that small, secret smile I hadn't seen in months. And for the first time, I asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Who's that?" She didn't answer right away. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Then she said softly, "It's nothing. Just a message." But her voice trembled. Something inside me cracked open. I reached for her hand, she pulled it back. "Lena, talk to me. Please." Her eyes filled with tears before she even spoke. "I can't," she whispered. My heart sank. "You can't, or you won't." She looked at me then, really looked, and said, "Because I know once I do, you'll see me differently." The road ahead blurred. I pulled over by the side of the highway, the engine humming softly, my hands shaking. "See you differently how?" She took a deep breath, tears spilling freely now. "Ethan, I didn't cheat on you. I swear I didn't." But I lied. The words hit harder than any confession could. She unlocked her phone and handed it to me. My eyes fell on the message. "Your test results are ready. We'll discuss your fertility evaluation at your next appointment." I froze. She spoke through sobs. "I've been going to the clinic for months. I found out I can't have children. I didn't tell you because I thought you'd leave. You've always wanted a family. I just wanted to fix it before you knew. My chest tightened, not from anger but from heartbreak. All the distance. The tears. The late nights. It wasn't betrayal. It was fear. Fear of losing the love she thought depended on being perfect. I didn't know what to say. I just stared at her, the woman I'd loved so completely, realizing she'd been carrying a pain alone to protect me. The silence that followed wasn't anger. It was grief for the truth, for the love that suddenly felt fragile, for the illusion that love alone could keep everything safe. When I finally spoke, my voice broke. You didn't have to protect me, Lena. You just had to tell me. She turned away, whispering, I didn't want to see disappointment in your eyes. And that was it. That was the moment, quiet, devastating, final. The moment she unintentionally shattered the illusion I thought would last forever. We drove home in silence. The golden sunlight faded into soft evening shadows, but the weight inside the car didn't lift. We arrived at our apartment, stepped inside, and it felt different. The walls didn't feel like home anymore. Lena tried to talk. I tried to listen. But words were weak compared to the storm inside us. We sat together on the couch for hours, neither moving, neither speaking, both afraid to break the fragile tension. Over the next few days, we tried. We held hands while watching movies, shared meals, laughed when something small made us smile. But every laugh carried a shadow, every touch a question, can we ever go back? She wanted to fix it. She apologized over and over, explaining why she kept the secret, how she thought it would protect me, how she feared my disappointment, how she loved me too much to risk losing me. I wanted to forgive her. I wanted to embrace her and pretend none of it mattered. But forgiveness isn't just about words, it's about feeling safe again. And I didn't feel safe. Not yet. Not the same way I once did. We tried counseling. We tried to talk for hours about everything and nothing. But sometimes, love alone isn't enough. Sometimes, the silence we carry with us leaves a space no apology can fill. Months passed. We remained together, but the intimacy was fragile. I loved her, yes, more than ever, but our connection had shifted, something permanent had broken. I began to realize that the truth, no matter how well-intentioned, changes everything. The illusion I adored, the perfect version of us, could never return. What remained was something quieter, sadder, respect, care, and a deep understanding of human fragility. We still celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, and Sunday mornings. We still shared coffee in the kitchen. But the future we had once imagined, children, laughter echoing through the halls, dreams fully realized, was gone. And yet, despite the heartbreak, there was still love. It wasn't the same kind that feels invincible. It was wiser, tempered by fear, pain, and honesty. I learned that sometimes, love isn't about perfection or fairy tale endings. Sometimes, it's about staying together even when the world has shown you what you can't control. And sometimes, love is about letting go of the illusions we once cherished, no matter how deeply we adored them. Looking back, I understand now that love is never simple. We often think love is about passion, romance, or fairy tale moments. But the truth is, love is also about trust, honesty, and courage, the courage to show your fears, even when it scares you. I adored Lena with everything I had. I believed love could conquer any silence, any misunderstanding, any fear. But I learned that even the deepest love can fracture when honesty is replaced by protection, when words are withheld to spare someone pain. Love isn't destroyed by secrets alone, it's destroyed by the space those secrets create between hearts. I realized that what she did, what she tried to hide, wasn't betrayal in the usual sense. She loved me so much that she feared disappointing me. And that fear, unspoken, changed everything. There's a lesson here for anyone who has loved or will love. Don't let fear of judgment or rejection stop you from being fully seen. Don't assume that protecting someone means sparing them. Vulnerability is the heartbeat of love, and silence, no matter how well-intentioned, can sometimes be louder than betrayal. I can still feel the warmth of our laughter, the comfort of our quiet mornings, and the hope we once shared. And while the illusion of perfect love may be gone, the truth, messy, imperfect, and real, remains. Love is fragile. Love is brave. And sometimes, love teaches us through the cracks that appear when we least expect them. Thank you for listening and sharing these moments with me. If this story touched you, even a little, I want you to pause and think about the people you love most. Think about the unspoken words, the moments you've held back, or the truths you've been too afraid to share. Sometimes, it's the smallest silences that carry the heaviest weight. Love is beautiful, yes. But it's also fragile. It asks us to be honest, brave, and vulnerable. And if we fail at that, even unintentionally, we risk losing not the person, but the connection that makes life meaningful. I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced love that changed shape? Or a moment when silence became louder than words? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your story might help someone else feel less alone in theirs. If you felt the emotions in this story, hit like, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe for more true emotional stories that dive deep into love, heartbreak, and life's quiet truths. And finally, remember this, love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, being seen, and being willing to face the cracks together, or learning to live with the memories they leave behind. Sometimes, the most tragic love stories are the ones that teach us the most about our own hearts. Hold your loved ones close. Speak the words that matter. Don't wait for a car ride, a moment, or a sign, because the truth, once hidden, can change everything.